Hello and how's it going? Welcome to the channel, and I am here for another album review for you guys. Yeah, I know, I've been just kind of feeling like doing album reviews lately, not necessarily for newer releases, but just albums. I just want to talk about just great music with you guys, and if you like these album reviews, please let me know in the comments. So, for this video, for this review, I'm going to be once again talking about a band that I think is really underrated, and the band is Sevendust. Now, I've been a fan of Sevendust for either 2 years or almost 2 years. I just remember I got into them around the time when All I See Is War came out, which was their last album, and yeah, that was the album that got me hooked, for those who were wondering, and I am looking forward to their new upcoming album that's coming out this year. Supposedly it's going to be released sometime in the summer, which is really exciting. And supposedly, from what someone has said, they said that, as far as sound-wise, this new Sevendust album is going to be like a combination of Animosity and Seasons, which I'm all for that, because I do like early Sevendust for sure. So yeah, definitely looking forward to the new album from these guys. But with that being said, for this review, I'm going to be reviewing Sevendust with their album Seasons. And I don't know about you guys, but I think this album is actually pretty underrated. Maybe one of Sevendust's most underrated albums. Maybe even one of my favorite Sevendust albums too. I don't know. It's maybe up there for me though. But yeah, right off the bat, it's a great album, and if you're a Sevendust fan, for whatever reason you haven't checked it out yet, definitely check it out. This album, I just think, does a really good job at everything that it does. Now, if you're new here, I usually don't go over every single song whenever I'm doing album reviews. I normally just talk about, what I think are the highlights, and just talk about the overall feeling of the album, of course. So, I would say that the overall feeling of this album is, of course, it's nu metal. Now, I would say that this is where Sevendust tried to experiment a little more, like especially with hard rock. Like, this is where they, to somewhat of an extent, started, throwing some bits of hard rock in there. But I still consider it a nu metal album. Like, it's not so obvious where it's like, it's just hard rock. It's not like, Sevendust's later material where, you would just say, yeah, this is definitely hard rock. Now, I think Sevendust's newer material is pretty good, but I definitely prefer their older material, their nu metal stuff. Now, nu metal, surprisingly, is a subgenre that used to be one of my least favorites when it comes to metal. Like, I never really dug nu metal that much, but I've actually grown to have a liking to nu metal, to be honest, and there's some other bands I would like to look into more in this subgenre. But yeah, Sevendust, I really like their nu metal stuff, and I'd still say that this is definitely a nu metal album, even though it does have some of that hard rock stuff incorporated in there. But of course, let's go ahead and get into some of these tracks. We got Disease, the opening track. Very good way to start off the album. Very good song, for sure. It starts off kind of weird. It's kind of sounds like LJ is like warming up for like the song or whatever. I'm not sure what that is at the beginning of the song, at the intro of the song. But then after that, it goes right into these, just intense riffs and instrumentation, and it's just a really energetic track, and it's a good way to start off the album. And then we got Enemy, which is one of my personal favorites off the album, and I think this song does a really good job of balancing the aggression and melody, and yeah, it's a really great song, and again, one of my favorites off the album. Then we got the title track, Seasons. This song is more on the melodic side, but I do like this song, but it is more melodic compared to the first couple of tracks on the album. But yeah, Seasons, the title track, very good song. And then we got Broken Down. Man, this song is really good as well. This might be a favorite of mine? I don't know. It's a bit of a tough call. But I do really like this song, though. This song definitely sounds very early 2000s, for sure. You can definitely hear that within the instrumentation and just some of the effects used in the song and the vocals. And yeah, and that's what I like about this song. I like that it has that like old school early 2000s feel to it. And it's one of those like fun songs that you listen to, you know, like it sounds like it, you know, it would be a really good song for, you know, just a live performance. Now, I don't know anything about, you know, the singles off this album, so I don't know if Broken Down was one of the singles. I mean, you guys would probably have to let me know about that. Like I said, you know, I'm still fairly new to these guys, only been a fan for a couple of years. But yeah, Broken Down is definitely a good song regardless. I think it's really good. And then, skipping some tracks ahead, we got the Skeleton song, which is maybe another one of my favorites off the album. I really dig this song. This is a song that kind of takes a ballad approach, and I think it works really well. Now, when sometimes bands do ballads, it can be very hit or miss. But with this song, they really done very well with it. It's a really great song. And this is definitely one of the best ballad-y songs that I think Sevendust has ever done, at least in my opinion. I really dig this song. This song has a sort of, I don't want to say sad, but kind of like moody feel to it, I think. Like, as far as the vocals go, and as far as the instrumentation goes, it's a very emotional sounding song, I guess you could say. Really great song, and I really dig it. And yeah, again, maybe a favorite of mine off the album. And then we're going to skip right on to the closing track, Face to Face, which is a decent way to close the album. And the reason that I say it's a decent way to close the album is because, well, I feel like with most albums, they should really close off their albums with either a ballad or something that's more experimental. Now, that's not to say that that should go for every album in the world, you know, but I do think that for this album, they should have, you know, done something a little bit more experimental with the closing track. But for what the song Face to Face is, it's still pretty good, and it's a decent way to close the album. But personally, I would have actually liked to seen the Skeleton song as the closing track. I think that would have been a more suitable way to close the album. But still, it is what it is. But yeah, really great album. Like I said, if you're a Sevendust fan and you haven't heard this album yet for some reason, definitely give it a listen. It's definitely a great album. If I were to give this album a score, I'd probably have to give it either an 8 or an 8.5 out of 10, which is still a very good score. Sure, it's not a 9 or a 10, but an 8 or an 8.5 is still a really good score. And one of the reasons why I feel like I gotta give it that score is because while I think this album is really good, and this is probably one of Sevendust's best albums, there is a few songs on here that you can tell definitely do lack replay value, especially with some songs in the second half of the album. The first half of this album, though, is really, really strong. And of course, you know, you got some songs, you know, in the second half that are, you know, pretty good, but some of them, kind of middle of the road. Like, none of these songs I'd say are, you know, just terrible. They're just kind of forgettable. Some of them, though. Not all of them. So that's why I got to give it the score that I gave it. Well, yeah. But for what the album is, still a great album. Definitely check it out. Is this a good starting point if you're just getting into Sevendust? I probably would say so. I think this is a good starting point for you. Now, of course, I did start off, you know, with their later material. Well, I started out with All I See Is War, and then I checked out Home. I think Home was the next album that I checked out after. But yeah, I know, kind of a real change of sound for sure. But yeah, but Seasons, very good album. Definitely check it out if you haven't already. Well, there you go, guys. That is my review. Let me know what you guys think. Have you heard this album? What do you think of it? So, with that being said, thanks for watching. Have a nice day, and take care.